Well, I'll say good evening straight away, so it sounds a little bit more professional. But yeah, I don't know. Sam is just looking at everything. He's got a new mic. We've got an old mic.
Hey, that's the old.
Not older, Mike. Let's be charitable.
And Bruce is apparently jumping on at some point, though it's not like him to be fashionably late.
He is old.
He is old. He is very old. But you know that gives us a diverse reaction. I see you went yesterday, Sam. Have you recovered from the sunstroke?
Yeah, I didn't get. It was quite nice actually because you're in the shade in the stand, and there was a little bit of a breeze actually, so it wasn't unpleasant in the ground at all. Although I'm not sure I've gone into a ground as early as that ever. But when I was in the ground an hour and 20 minutes before kick-off because it wasn't an afternoon for standing around outside the ground or sitting in the car before the game. But no, I was absolutely fine. There was some lad with next to the drum who threw up apparently, which meant the drum got banned temporarily. Yeah, I didn't see that. I've heard that on the grapevine. But no, I was fine.
I saw an away day. I saw an away day sleeper image yesterday of someone asleep in the parcel shelf of a train, a town fan on their way home. Was it you?
I saw that no, it wasn't me. I wasn't on an LNER train on the way home.
That's amazing.
So I can categorically rule me out of that one.
Is anyone here? We got some different people in the chat today, which is great. But where's the old guard? Have we come up in the wrong chat room?
Yeah, probably.
We aren't broadcasting to nobody, are we? But
I've rattled Alan Hardy. Apparently,
you just love it. You just love it, don't you? Going poking little sticks at people.
I can't hear your witty remarks. I'm afraid, Sam. My headphones have died.
They're remarks. I don't know if they're witty.
Annoying. 1 second, people.
I got accused of doing a nearly funny tweet yesterday, so I'm on a roll.
A nearly funny tweet. What was it?
You
have to warn us when you're going to send nearly funny tweets out.
It was I can't remember who it was, but it was a one about Leeds Station. And someone replied with, "Well done, Sam. That was nearly funny." So if you said that, yeah, I remembered it.
Oh yeah, I saw that one. I had a mild tipple.
You sort of went.
Here we come, John Lilly. 4 points dropped. Walsall and Bradford. Evening, Simon. Evening, Andrew.
Evening, straight in there.
This is just inane chat.
This is just the inane chat.
Daggerbury is now saying we're paused on his screen, so hopefully not. I seem to be all right on my end. I've got no one freaking out. Good. Well, we will get going in a minute. I thought Bruce was coming on. He did say. Or did he just give a proverbial thumbs up? Evening, Gemma. How are you?
Or when I said I can come on, and when he then said, "Oh, so why don't you go on, Sam?" Did he think in place of him? Because I've discovered last week we finished early without the kind of the sort of ramblings of a middle-aged man filibustering the podcast every week.
Andrew, evening to you as well. Any thoughts on yesterday? Please do get them in. We got a tough one next week as well. Andy Gilpin from the Fearless in Devotion fanzine is coming on. He is a Wrexham fan pre-2019. So he'll be able to at least remind us of how cold the FA Trophy final was in 2013, which is what a real Wrexham fan is.
Yeah. So in other words, he's a Wrexham fan. Have you ever... If you go on Twitter, but I don't do this.
He's not a fan of a TV show.
Go on and put hashtag Ask Wrexham, so WHXM. And it's basically just Americans asking English football fans how English football works. It's hilarious in terms of here he is.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, Simon.
Look at him. That's all right. Simon would like to report that Sam was polite to Mara Hodo yesterday. That's after him buying him a drink as well. So, relationships are better.
We're building bridges.
Exactly.
When you turn 18, Hodo, I'll buy you a proper drink as an attempt at kind of atonement for my sins.
As long as you don't buy Sam more than 3 back, and then he'll be sick in your toilet.
Sam is building bridges, unlike some of his predecessors.
You call him Tom?
I'm talking about others. You just take a load of cash for planning one. Slappy says, felt like a loss yesterday. Gutted, really. Playoffs out of the question now. Slappy's gone full. He's gone full, 6 games in. Playoffs are over. We're never getting there.
2
Play
points.
the kids.
It's
Give the
unsurmountable
kids
now.
a game.
That's a wind up in it. That's not a genuine. That he's just trying to get a rise out of us.
I'm happy if it is. There we go. But there we are.
Who the hell is hula hoop lover? He or she. They're new.
It might be.
They. You're covering all the bases these days, too, aren't you?
Gemma's in agreement. Gemma's in agreement anyway. She's saying playoffs are out of the question. May as well have a clear out. Stephen's in. Stephen with a bit of reasonability. What? Go on then.
Didn't we? Was it Sam? Was it Sam and Mike? And between us that we decided that from the first 8 games, the difficult 8 games, we needed 14 points, wasn't it? That was an adequate return. I think was the number we came up with, wasn't it? And we played 7 now. We played 7, haven't we?
I said 12 to 4. I said 12 to 14. I think. I
can't
remember.
Does that mean we need to win at Wrexham?
Yeah, we need to win at Wrexham, and have we got 10 points now? Yeah, we've won 2 and drawn 4, haven't we? So we can't reach 14. So she's right. Slappy's right then, because if we need 14 points to get to the playoffs, then we're not going to get them, are we? Right.
We did do it at the start of the season. We did it after a couple of games, Bruce, and I can't remember what we said, but it was after about 4 games.
I think it was. I'm sure 14 was mentioned. I'm sure somebody. Nobody will be interested enough to go back and listen, but I'm sure that sort of like Sam says, I think 12 to 14 points was what we considered an acceptable. I think it was the day that we talked about, or I talked about, that we had to take points off the top teams when we played them. We couldn't just say that we've played the top teams and that's why we've got 4 points.
That was 3 weeks ago.
So we're doing all right. But yeah, we win at Wrexham when it's on.
Gemma's saying it was sarcasm for her questions about the being out of the playoffs. I don't believe it.
No, Gemma, she's absolutely right, because we're doing automatic, aren't we? Playoffs are out the question. Who needs them when you're going to finish top 3?
Stephen is saying playoffs out the question as well. Let's get this started so we can have a chat and everyone can. I would say I'm going to play the devil's advocate, but I was a little bit disappointed yesterday, so I'm happy to be. Sam and Mike have already started to start their engines on it. I don't know what Bruce's opinion are, but we'll see you in a sec.
Open wide for some soccer!
And now the shipping forecast issued by the Met Office on behalf of the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency at 1130. Go! At 1130.
I don't think I've ever wanted to be in a stand more than my life around there. They're going crazy. Hey, they got a penalty here. They've been fish flying about that. There's no tomorrow.
What a magnificent piece of football! A really, really good job. You can't make it straight like that.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the DN35 podcast. We are back from sunny West Yorkshire. Well, Sam is anyway, as is Bruce. The Mariners drew 1-1 on their glittery day on Sky's TV. It was 34 degrees at pitch level, according to Sky Sports. And the Mariners come away with a point yet to defeat Bradford in nearly a quarter of a century. Was it the opportunity missed yesterday? I will go to Sam first for his live reactions, apart from the person next to the drummer being sick.
Delayed live reactions. This is why it's a good thing probably do this on a Sunday rather than straight after the game, because you've had a bit of time to kind of process it.
I would be a mug. I would be a mug if we did this on the day.
Oh, I don't think you and I'd speak, Alex. Obviously, in the immediate aftermath, I was seriously pissed off yesterday when we're walking out of the ground, because the game was there to be won. We were over the 90 minutes. We were so much better than they were. I mean, he was talking about we need to take points off the top teams. They ain't going to be a top team on the evidence of that. So I felt way more disappointed than that I did walking out of Walsall in terms of how, if you can compare them, because they're both relatively late, obviously later yesterday, points dropped away from home. So it's still very early days in the season. but you can maybe already see what we're very good at, which is we're a lot better on the ball. We're a lot happier on the possession. We move a lot better. We're still relatively solid, very hard to beat. We're very energetic. We're very fit, but we do still lack a bit of cutting edge and ruthlessness in and around the box. And I put that's the reason you didn't win yesterday, rather than sort of tiring and failing to cling on in games. We need to learn to kill games off. And Hurst himself said he was acutely aware of that. There were loads of opportunities yesterday to pick them off on the counter, but whether it was Danny Amos or Danny Rose, they both between them made a complete mess of really, really good positions. That might be because I think Hurst said that Amos was feeling a bit under the weather, and that's why he got brought off for the GOAT to go and play at left back out of position. I thought there'd be a reaction to that one.
Just like Miche defending, there was no reaction whatsoever. Bruce, what were your takeaways from the game yesterday? Takeaways. So sorry, kill me.
I need to hold my hands up though. I wasn't there yesterday. Maisie's season started, and that's gonna impact.
How did she do?
I was at Tolbar.
This is the reputation of the pod no good if I'm the only one who's going. But those rumours are going to start to come true that we don't go to games.
It's quite.
She's got no game at the minute on the 21st of October, and Town are at Stockport, so that's looking highly likely. I've not looked at the away fixtures between Wrexham. I can't go next Saturday. She's got a game in Lincoln, and then I've not looked after that. Once the season settles down, if there's games that I think she'll win or they'll win quite comfortably, then last year I did a couple of games and missed a couple of her games, but I don't want to miss the big games. But yeah, I did watch it. I think everything that everybody said, everything that Sam says is right. I think we're going to go over old ground again, but I do think that if we want to play a possession-based football, it certainly looked. You guys, we were all at the Gillingham game last week, and we all saw it yesterday. And I thought that we keep hold of the ball really well. And I thought in tight situations, we did really well. And historically, when we've done that earlier in the season, and when we've done it a little bit before, a lot of the time we spend it playing along our back line. I thought there was less time with it along the back line and more of it further forward yesterday. But like Sam says, without creating the chances that our possession should have done and putting the game to bed. I don't know. Sam can probably tell better because obviously you only watch where the ball is. But I thought last week against Gillingham, we seemed to have players close to Rose, and I'm not sure that we quite got them as close to Rose yesterday. Whether that was the heat and if Clifton's going to get there, he's got to get into they didn't seem quite as close to Rose yesterday. I don't know whether that's right or a false observation.
It requires more lung work, doesn't it? If you're going to be constantly running beyond the strikers and having to run back. So you'd imagine maybe Hurst would told them to just kind of. I thought in the first half it was very deliberate play from us to kind of keep the ball, pass it around quite slowly to try and deprive them of oxygen, if you like, and the ball and tire them out. I mean, I hold my hand. Well. Yeah, hold my hands up. I said about 5 minutes before they scored, they look more knackered than we do. And I thought that went back to the first half when we completely dominated the game in terms of territory. But I'd go along with that. The men weren't as close to Danny yesterday as they were against Gillingham. But I'd expect them to be closer to him next week at Wrexham, which I suspect, by the way, will be having not won yesterday, it'll be a much tougher examination, I'd imagine, at Wrexham next week. Because I say again, they were poor. That's a big takeaway for me as well.
So we had tweets coming in from Bradford fans over the weekend going, if you do not beat us this time round, you are truly shit. Half of our team is out injured and we are awful. You could hear the reception, at half time from the Bradford fans, which actually, ironically wasn't too different from Gillingham fans who now currently sit top of the league but booed their team off at half time and sang we are fucking shit.
If he'd scored 5 goals all season, that is peak footballing shithousery, isn't it? To score 5 goals.
Do you think that's what Hurst looks to? Is that what it is? That's his football nirvana.
5 the Gillingham goals, model.
5 wins. Yeah, 5 goals, 4 wins. It was an
1-0
one. Yeah. Well, he does. Mike, what are your thoughts on the game yesterday? Then I'll come into mine. You can rip me to shreds.
I thought it was a funny old one. Agree with most of what Sam and Bruce have said. I think first half we utterly dominated, and I think if you're looking at that compared to the gripes and moans we had last season, being that good on the ball and being able to dictate a game and apply the pressure we did without creating too much first half is a big gripe that we had. So that's a massive improvement from last season. I think Sam's right. I think we were quite deliberate trying to wear Bradford down. I think we knew they were going to come back at us second half. You know, we're away from home. They're at home. There's a big crowd. The pressure's on them. They're going to try and change something, get on the ball more. And I think throughout the second half, we limited them really well. I can't remember them having a shot on target other than the goal. So the frustrating thing is we've absolutely dominated a game away at Bradford, which I can't remember us doing for a long time. And we've come out with 1 point. And I think we deserved 3. Now, but if you look around the side, I think everything we saw yesterday was positive. I struggle to find many negatives from it. Being on the ball as good as we were, and taking the chance that Danny Rose got, again is another sort of comparison to last season when we weren't taking chances, where we got very few, but we took them. So it's a funny old one. I'm not. Once you get over the immediacy of losing or losing 2 points late on in a game, and you step back from it and look at it, I don't think any of us would have got into that game being unhappy with a point. And I think that's probably true with a lot of the games we've played this season. It's always funny, isn't it? If you'd conceded first and scored the last minute equaliser, it's a whole different story. But in reality, the game was better from our point of view because we scored early and kept the lead. So it's funny how perspective changes just on who scored the last goal.
Didn't we only have 2 shots on target though? I can only remember the Rose header and Ganua in the second half.
No, Ganua had 2, and I think there was one that was a little bit wide. But you know, I take that point.
We had all that possession, and we had 2 or 3 shots on target. With your average shot to goal ratio, we're not going to score many more than 1, are we? That's my, you know, we're not creating a lot. We're all out of possession. We're not creating a lot.
Whereas you said last week, we scored twice and also forced 3 or 4 really good saves from the keeper.
Yeah, I think you've also got to take the context. You're playing away from home. We're talking about not getting Clifton up alongside a striker. That's going to happen not away from home when you're away from home. You're up against decent quality teams in front of big crowds and big conditions. Sometimes you're going to have to be good on the ball and not give much away and take the chance you get. I think what we've seen this season is a massive change from last season. Maybe we didn't make the chances we should have done this week, but we did last week, you know, so it doesn't just automatically change every week because you just don't do something in one game doesn't mean that's then how it's going to be throughout the season. I think
I will say,
we've seen,
I didn't think they were going to score. Sorry, Mike. I didn't think they looked like scoring. I was quite comfortable going into stoppage time or whatever it was right at the end when they did score. It was going to take a good shot like it was to beat us or to score. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I just think the changes from this season to last season, whilst we're not there yet, and there's lots of things that we can think we need to improve on. Every time we've said, "Oh, this is a problem" or "That's a problem," it's sort of changed. You know, the football was dull last season. The football's better this season. We're not investing in long-term contracts. We're investing in them. Home form's an issue. We haven't lost since April at home. We're inconsistent. We've only lost once this season. So every time a gripe comes up, we do sort of come past it and, you know, maybe we need to score more goals, but that might be the next thing on the thing. From what I've seen this season, I'm quite happy with how we're progressing. We're not there yet, of course we're not, but we're progressing.
So I thought we played really well in the first half. I agree with Bruce. We're guilty again of not making hay while the sun shines. We don't create enough chances, I don't think, especially given the dominance we had in a game against a very thin Bradford team. And I think that's something we need to remember. We keep just looking at the badge rather than what they're playing. And I stand by the saying I said yesterday, Paul Hurst again, 34-degree temperature, 2 substitutions compared to their 5. And I think you've got to use the squad you have available to you to, make sure you get those marginal gains that everybody really needs, because it is just such a thin, just a thin margin of error. You never know what those changes can make. So that's my opinion on it. And I think he's been guilty of that at times, but not always. But again, it's one of those, isn't it, where you look back and make those changes. If we'd have come away with 1-0, he'd have been seen as a genius. But I think he should have really made the most of it while he could.
So, okay, you say that. So, should have made some changes. What changes would you have made?
The middle three were fucked. Holohan, Clifton, and Conte were absolutely fucked. And the 70th minute, Conte fell on his arse trying to get back for a ball and just tiredly run his leg at it. He's already been criticised for it already this season. The level up in which his fitness has to improve. I'd have brought on Hunt, and I'd have brought on Andrews, and I'd have brought on who else was the other midfielder we had on the bench as well? The new guy he's brought in this week.
Ainley, yeah.
Yeah. And if he's not bringing on those players, then it says something about him and the people he picks. He bought Hunt, he paid for Hunt, and he's nearly halfway through his contract. And I don't think he's necessarily the player that he wants. So that's a mistake. But we need to.
Could I make a point? Because you two sort of on either extremes of it, and I'm sort of in the middle. I don't know where Bruce
I don't
is.
think I'm on an extreme. I just
well,
think
no.
in
terms of because you think absolutely he should have made changes. Yeah. Sam is less convinced. I'm sort of in the middle where I can see the reasoning for making changes, but I also can see the reasoning for if you're comfortable, like me and Bruce and all of us have just said, we were comfortable. You run the risk as if you change something, do you then upset the game? So if you're coasting and they're not creating anything, you look comfortable, you suddenly change your midfield three. Does that then change the emphasis of the game? And then they're not up to speed. They're losing men. They're getting through our midfield. There's all these things to weigh up. Personally, I think he should have changed the front three to be able to press and to try and give an outlet for any pressure that's coming. But I can't see much need for changing the midfield central three for me.
I think this is different from what the usual criticisms are aimed at Hurst. Hurst is a manager that likes to stick rather than to twist, and that's worked for him as a manager. Yesterday, I don't think it was more of an ideological reason as to why you make those changes or not. I think it was simply a case of it was fucking hot and you manage the conditions and you should manage them well. You've got 5 substitutes available to you, and the fact we have left, conceded more points than anybody else, I don't think is necessarily the narrative to follow on this, but it is an indicator that sometimes we are guilty of sitting on our hands and not making changes when we need to. Granted, it is, a catch-22, a piece in which, you never really know what the outcome is going to be, chaos theory and alike, but I think you give yourself more of a chance if you've got players with fresher legs on when it's 34 to 35 degrees out on the pitch.
Yeah, I can see that school of thought. I just don't think it's as black and white. And Paul Hurst said after the game, look, Paul Hurst said after the game, look, he'll have to go away and look at the players' data because obviously they see their statistics with how their intensity is running and things like that. So there'll be answers there, and he'll take that away. But I don't think it's a case of just change the midfield three when we are as comfortable. Because if he changes that and we go on to concede 1 or 2,
I don't think we were. I thought we defended, I thought we were. I don't think we were comfortable in that second half. I thought Bradford were the better team. They didn't create much, but they were certainly the one team in the ascendancy. Simon,
the first 10 minutes, 10 and 15 minutes, did a lot of territory, a lot of corners, built up a lot of pressure and didn't create anything with it. But after we'd sort of rode that storm, they didn't get near us.
But would we not say we're as guilty as that? Because that's exactly what we did in the first half.
Yeah, but we've got the lead.
Goal. And then they scored as well. So we're exactly the same.
Yeah, but you're naturally going to sit back and absorb pressure, aren't you? You're not comparing apples with apples there. So we've dominated the ball when it's 0-0, and there's kind of like an equal standpoint in the game. Then they've pushed us back when we're trying to cling on. We're just trying to hold on to a lead. So you're not. That's different. And I think I agree with what Mike's saying about the point. So say you change the midfield. The midfield's a big part of the shape. You bring on a new lad. 2 of them who've barely kicked a ball from us aren't going to know as the shape as well. He's going to. I sometimes feel like Hurst can't win. He's going to get criticised. Whatever, he got criticised for making substitutions earlier on in his career. Oh, when he brought on Parslow at Chester most famously, for example, that's an extreme case, but that was positioned as a kind of representative of his negative, which we're going to come on to later, mindset. But throughout his career, we've been really good at seeing out games. So in both spells, winning games 1-0, winning games 2-1, holding on to leads. So I'm not sitting here saying that we've dropped a load of points. Winning position is inherently a problem. I just think you should look at more than 7 spell at the start of this one, than going back 10 years of her sides being very good at closing out games. Of course, if we're still at halfway the season, we've dropped 25 points winning positions, then you can maybe say we've got a problem. But I don't think there's a big issue. But is the point you're making it's more specific to yesterday, really?
Yeah, it's not an ideological. It's not. Paul Hurst is a manager that would prefer to stick rather than twist, which is fine. I don't mind that. It's worked for him. But I think yesterday, those players looked absolutely fucked to me. And
So did theirs.
Yeah, but they brought in 5 players and made those changes, and they're the marginal gains to me. 5-10% differences throughout a game, and I think that's where we fell. This isn't a Parslow thing.
And yes, you were saying, but then you say, okay, right, so Mishi's got it wrong. You say Mishi shouldn't have shown his man inside.
Massively. We need a jingle for this.
He's one of the subs.
Could I just point out something?
Do you know what? Before we move on, sorry, Mike. Andy is waiting patiently. Well, I did say we'll have a chat. We'll give it a bit more time afterwards because I know Bob put a question in, and we need to give it the time it deserves. But let's preview Wrexham now that the hand of Scouse is back. Get your best diving scores out because Mullen is back on the pitch, and let's talk to a team who are also part of a documentary where Grimsby Town were the winners.
Behind, so that's the final action of the game, which means Grimsby Town are back in the Football League just a year after those awful seasons.
Well, it may have been wet at Scunny yesterday when they lost to a bottle of water. There is a certain player from across the Pennines who might have well enjoyed a deep end or two. Andy, welcome to the DN35 podcast. How is everything over in Wales?
I'm not having all this mulling diving nonsense. Come on.
Would you prefer handballs?
Well, maybe we could have got that penalty that would.
Which one?
When it was. Yeah, there was a lot in that. There was a lot in that game.
There were about eight big decisions. 4 of them went for us. 4 of them went against us. The ref just got everything wrong.
Yeah, but let's move on from that. I was glad you guys went up. To be honest, proper club.
No, let's not. Let's revel in it. Let's revel in it forever.
I just hope there's got to be someone who watches that TV show who is a really glowing supporting wanker and goes, I don't want to support the team that lost. I want to support the team that won. And he's now somewhere in Who Gives a Shit America, who's got a Town shirt, and all he can talk about is Gavin Holohan. There's got to be one, at least one.
Yeah, he was probably on our pre-season tour just to rub it in.
How are things going there then? So not the start you'd have expected?
No, it was the start I expected, to be honest. Just because, and I've already mentioned it, that pre-season tour, it was a weird one. It took a lot out of us. We didn't get back in country till the Sunday before the season kicked off. Our keeper didn't get back till the Wednesday or the Thursday. And that's probably part of the reason why he retired about a couple of weeks into the season. I think Parkinson's already been railing against it. It just seemed bad preparation for us to go all the way out there. The time differences, we were crisscrossing the country. We were playing at all times. We lost our top scorer. It wasn't a perfect preparation for Phil Parkinson. For a fan, I went out there to the East Coast games. I absolutely loved it. So, I can understand why they have to do things like that because it keeps the interest going across the pond. And we have to sort of accept it that we are somehow an international club now, which is still amazing to all of us.
Well, that's a question I'd like to ask because I always find like lower league football fans are essentially music snobs and
hipsters.
Yeah, exactly. Does it feel like your club anymore? Because I think I would struggle at a point with somebody from Who Gives a Shit America telling me what he thinks of Malarkey or, Eastwood. What does it feel like to you? Does it feel the same thing or is it something you've come to adapt?
You do adapt to it a little bit. I mean, I've spent the last 20, 30 years of my life trying to get people interested in Wrexham FC, taking them and saying, come on, this is a great match. And it never bloody works. So it would be churlish of me now to turn around and be annoyed that everyone seems to be into Wrexham FC. On the other hand, sometimes I just wish the nonsense would all go away and I could just enjoy my football club. How I used to. It would have been the purest form for us to get promoted under the Supporters Trust. But it wasn't happening. It was never probably going to happen. We needed this shot in the arm. No one thought it was going to be like this. And I tell you what, it's all going to ramp up again on Wednesday, I think, when the second season of the documentary comes out. So we're going to go through all this again. We're going to pick up more fans. But to go back to your question about America and how they sort of perceived us. They are quite respectful. As I say, I went out there. And what I saw was a lot of people coming a lot of distance to see the club and to go to open training sessions. And I sort of got the feeling it was a lot of people who got on board for the documentary and didn't really have anyone to talk to it about, because all their friends were still NFL fans, didn't give a shit about Wrexham. So they drove a huge amount of time, and distance to come and talk to Wrexham fans about something that is quite passionate to them, because a lot of fans out there aren't soccer fans, as they call it out there, and don't have a team. Well, now they do have a team, and it just happens to be my team.
I do have I've got to say though, it does feel like we're the Frank Grimes of this whole thing. We do everything you do, less glamour but better. You reach the FA Cup 5th round, that's amazing. We reach the FA Cup quarter final, we get promoted. It just feels, we need. I was disappointed when your game against Sheffield United got on the telly. We're going, oh, we could really do with that $250,000 that you got from ITV for it. But it must be interesting in terms of, does it change your perspective on where the club is, especially at the moment? I would find it difficult to believe that there aren't Wrexham fans that are already questioning Phil Parkinson, given the start that they've had. Or is it just because someone like a talismanic figure like Mullin is injured, he can sort of get away from that ire? Or am I critical?
I think you're a bit overcritical, to be honest. I mean, we lost the first game of the season when they just stepped off a plane from America to a very good MK Dons side, who I think will give anyone problems this season. The two lads they've got up front, Issa and Jonathan Leckie, I think his name is. They're both fantastic. Yeah, the second best. Yeah, okay. But they're class. So yeah, he lost that game. There was a lot of mistakes, and we had enough chances, we just couldn't put them away. I think since then we've been pretty solid. We're unbeaten. I think that's two in a row we've won now. Tranmere was a solid win, and I'd say Doncaster was a lucky win. But we're on the edge of the playoffs. We got Mullin back. This guy Fletcher that we brought in looks an astute signing. There's quality all the way through the squad. I think last season, if we'd have been in and around like this, yes, there would be calls for us. But you know what it's like in the conference. Every time you don't win, it's an absolute disaster. And I think in League Two, anyone can beat anyone, and you can go for a bit of a barren spell, but then knock back 3 or 4 wins and be right up there. And I think we're all sort of quietly happy with where we are, a little bit under the radar. We're not running away at the top or anything like that. Let's not, Notts County can do that. But we're slowly grinding results away, and I think when Mullin comes back, he's just that little bit of sharpness that we need, because we've just struggled up front, and that's the key reason why we aren't further up.
Do you expect Mullin will start next? I noticed he came on after an hour yesterday. Do you think he'll start next week, or do you think it might leave it another week?
I think he might leave it another week. He looks so rusty. I mean, his first touch was all over the place. You could tell he hadn't had much of a pre-season. I'd be surprised if he started against you boys, because, really and truly, you've got to work this guy back in. You can't have him blow up after 45 minutes again. And, that would be a disaster for our season. He's got to treat him carefully. I think he might come on again after half an hour to go. And I think he'll be a lot sharper next week than he was this week, because he looked like he shouldn't have been on the pitch on Saturday. But it's Paul Mullin. He wants to play. If he tells you he wants to play, you play him, because he's your talisman. And the one thing he did do, create havoc, because they were a little bit scared of him. They dropped back a little bit when Mullin came on. I mean, they didn't have to, because his first touch was all over the place. But they did give us that extra space for other players.
Yeah. Because is he still your best player despite all the other signings you've made?
Yeah, definitely. Without a doubt. It's not just what he does on the pitch. It's he sort of buys into the ethos of the club. He's quite good with the documentary, but he's a passionate fella, and we sort of buy into that. It's quite a good marriage on and off the pitch. So yeah, he's our talisman, I'd say. And we're absolutely gutted when we lost him pre-season, because we knew we'd struggle, because you can't replace a fella like that, and there's no way that we should go out and spend a huge amount of money to try and replace him, because we knew he'd be back, and that just causes problems further up the season. So yeah, without a doubt, he's our best player. But the likes of Elliot Lee, with a good pre-season behind him, he started like a train. He's got 6 in 6. He's another one you really need to look out for.
Yeah, because as I say, you haven't struggled to score goals at all, despite having Mullen out the side. Was the main reason I asked that question particularly. But what is one I've always wondered about Wrexham is, how far do you think this project can take you? Because of the money involved once you get to the top end of League One, because you've got out of this league at some point, I'd imagine. Do you think you can take it to the next level and compete at the top end of the next league, or do you think there is a ceiling at some point?
I think there's a ceiling for Parkinson. I think he's very rigid in what he does. And I think you'll get to a stage where the money that we're bringing in from marketing, and that's mostly what it is. I mean, these lads, Brian and Rob, aren't chucking a huge amount of their own personal fortune into it. They're covering the costs through attendances, through sponsorship, and maybe a little bit of money from the documentary here and there, or whatever that brings. There'll come a point in League One where that money won't mean anything, because you'll be up against big clubs like Portsmouth, and they probably just got more backing than even we have. So then I think you maybe need to think, right, can we get a young, more progressive coach in who can change the tactics a little bit and maybe make the players that we brought in just that little bit better? If we do manage to get out of League One, because I think you're right, eventually on this trajectory, we probably will get out of League Two with
so much easier. It's so much easier when you come into League Two, having been in the conference, isn't it?
Yeah,
with 3 automatic promotion places. Yeah. You kind of don't seem so scary anymore, does it? Because going back to what you said about 1 drop point is disaster, because it is with only 1 automatic promotion spot.
Yeah, and I'm not as worried about games as I used to be. I used to be sort of like biting fingernails and just really be tense about stuff and not enjoy games. I've managed to enjoy some games this season, which I haven't done for the last 5 or 6 years.
It's when Weymouth come and they stick 11 behind them, but you've had 15 shots on target from outside the area, and then they get a free kick in the 93rd minute. Just from you, and it, you just can feel it, can't you?
And it's bundled in by a plumber.
Yeah, and you always go, oh, right, well, of course they've got a long throw merchant, and now we're the twats with the long throw merchant. So everything's come right.
I mean, we are just
we had a better one, yeah.
Yeah, ours was free.
Right. No, I mean, ours technically was free, but I think by the time you put the signing on fee, he certainly wasn't. But going back to your original question, there will come a point, if we do manage to get out of League One, then they will need outside investment to get and a lot of luck to do anything in the Championship.
To be fair, Reynolds is great though. He's got all sorts of busy. He's well equipped, isn't he, to kind of attract outside investment. So that wouldn't concern me really.
No, and I think Wrexham would be quite a going concern at that point. I think they'd probably have a 4-sided ground. I think they might have even knocked on with another stand by then. So it would be impressive, an impressive prospect. It would be globally quite well known through the documentary. The more we get promoted, the more seasons that documentary gets carried on. So because Americans are buying into the success now. So I think that's the sort of next step. I think it will evolve to saying goodbye to Parkinson, who's not a bad manager, but just sometimes you need to make your money go a little bit further. And then the next step is, do we get the right sort of outside investment to really allow us to push on in the Championship? It sounds nuts, doesn't it? We're in non-league last season, and now you've got me saying what we're going to do in the Championship. You've caught me out, lads.
Don't worry, you're all going to fall for it at some point. At some point, you've got to become insufferable. But all we have to do is just ask you what the coldest game in football was, and then we can sort of sift the wrong ones out from the right ones. Because
Woking away, by the way, that big stand.
Got to go then, because if he doesn't think the 2013 FA Trophy final was the game in history, then the man is reading from notes. Because
I mean, I'll be honest, I was 12 pints deep during that. FA Trophy final. So are you basically
that Titanic chef who survived by just downing a bottle of whiskey when he stepped off the ship. Is that basically how you survived it?
That survived. Did he get hit by a Brody penalty as well as he was stepping off?
Most likely, yeah, absolutely. Or
I think that's still probably making its way out the atmosphere there. Sorry, I feel a little insufferable myself now. But
it's got to be. Look, I mean, you guys paid your penance in that league for long enough, so I'm not particularly displeased at all with it. We all have a cracking game to think of, and there's been always a nice relationship. I guess the question is, so Andy, if you had divided loyalties tomorrow, Paul Hurst puts you on the books at Grimsby as a coach or a data analyst. What do you tell him to beat Wrexham with?
Okay.
How do we get through you?
Look, Aaron Hayden went down injured, as he always does. Never anyone around him. He just sort of falls over, and they're the worst ones because you know he's going to walk off or sprint off, and you think, oh, he'll be back for the next game, and then he's out for 4 or 5 months. It's happened twice now. It's probably going to happen again. No Hayden means not a lot of pace in that back three, and Howard can be inconsistent at best. So yeah. Definitely try and turn us. If you've got some pacey front man and can hit them early, you've got a good chance of catching us out. So that's where our main weakness are. Another thing is our wing backs are very good going forward, but maybe a little more susceptible going the other way. So yeah, there are definitely weaknesses there. But if you allow us to dictate stuff in the middle, allow us to get on the ball, the likes of Luke Young will battle for everything. Lee is very dangerous, and the 2 wing backs, Barnett especially, is he's more of a winger than a wing back, and he will hurt you.
Is it like I used to be at Solihull?
Yeah, decent player.
Oh, he's a really good player. Doesn't McFadzean still play for you?
Well, sort of. He does. He's still contracted, but this 22-man squad, he didn't make it.
Because I remember it was the Tuesday night game in the league season. He tore us to shreds that evening. I remember he played. He would look like a really, really good player. I thought, hence I asked that question. I don't know. Have we got enough? Have we got any pacing behind we can exploit them with?
I don't know. No, probably not. Well, I guess Andy, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great. We won't do the cheesy thing of asking for predictions because you can't predict our games. Usually if it hits double figures, we're doing all right. But good luck for the rest of the season past next week. And we hope we get another glowing reference in your upcoming documentary.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. Thanks for having me, guys. Good luck. Again, proper club. Glad you went up. And good luck for the rest of it.
Cheers, Andy. Thanks, mate.
Thank you. Right, well, Mike's back. Let's quickly go through it. What do you want to talk about afterwards as well? Then let's in terms of what do you want to talk about after we have a quick little break?
I want to talk about our centre back pairing.
Okay. Oh, Bruce sounds like he's got something to talk about.
The 9 points thing seems a relevant discussion at the minute. Maybe we'll have a look at that.
Always does. Right. See you in a second, guys. Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. My name's Alex. You may remember me from the DN35 podcast like 5 seconds ago. We have created some merch because that's what people do nowadays. You were very kind to ask for some of the prints and the designs that we do when I get bored mostly. And so we've set it up. It's on Etsy. We'll put a link up and you're more than welcome to have a look at it. Just have a quick look. We've tried to keep it as cheap as we can, as well as making a tiny bit of cash on it. I hope you don't mind. I didn't know a stamp is £1.60 now. That is ridiculous. Anyway, we've bought a printer, which is very good, very expensive. And also we did quite a lot of work on what papers work best and the like as well. So if you're looking for, I don't know, you want to have a Camille Conte shirt number, we can do one for any player you want. Alan Poughton's are cheaper, obviously. Or whether you want Bill Shankly's quote, we put that on a nice bit of paper and put it in print. Or whether you want the infographic that you all very kindly, I've just realized that some of you aren't even watching this, you're listening. But if you were interested in the infographic you all helped us with on Twitter, we've got that available as well. They come in 2 sizes, A4 or A3, because that's what we can print. Or, we've got a beautiful sunset at Blundell Park, which I took when I was up last week. Then feel free to. We've done our best, as I said, to keep it cheap. We've also got some stickers coming as well. We're just trying to work out how to make them a better quality rather than, leaving them out in the open and then they, the ink runs or something. So have a look, go to the Etsy shop. It's on the DN35 Pod Shop. Anything you do is really appreciated. We will always have a look at, trying to keep in this podcast as independent as possible. We've got some wonderful people who help support the podcast, and we don't always want to keep dipping into their pockets on a yearly basis. So if we can do this, that would be amazing. And I'm kind of hoping then in the future, if this is popular, we can move it into T-shirts and the like. We just need to buy another piece of equipment for that. But we will keep expanding it if it's needed. So thank you for taking a couple of minutes. It's on the DN35 Pod Shop on Etsy. If you've got any questions on it, drop it on a DM. We'll happily help out. And with that, we'll go back to the inane chit chat, because no one needs to hear us promoting ourselves any more than what we usually do. So we shall see you in a second. I did things.
I want to see you put a T-shirt with the printer.
I probably would do as well. Lads, it's
I
gone wrong.
I want to see you do that.
When did you do that?
About 20 minutes before the show started. Right. Bruce, you wanted to talk about the centre-back partnering, because I'm interested in this, because I thought it wasn't too bad. What are your thoughts?
No, I think that I really, really, really like those two together. And I can see why Waterfall isn't getting in the way we're trying to play. We all know what a good defender he is, but obviously not quite so good on the ball. That's not, like I said, that's not a criticism. That's just not his game. But I really like them. In fact, to be fair, I quite like the back 4 or 5 at the moment. I think we look pretty solid. I don't know what you guys think. I like Harvey Rodgers too.
I think 4 of the back 5 are good. I put it on Twitter yesterday and got a bit of pushback for it by saying I think we've got 2 conference left backs. What I mean by that is they're good enough to play.
Right back.
Yeah, but he's not playing. What I mean by that is someone who's good enough to get you out of the conference, but is not good enough to get you into the top 7 in League 2. Now, I'm expecting a bit of pushback from my friend Mike above me, but the other 4 are, as Bruce says, really, really. I mean, Rodgers and Mars. It's the best partnership I can remember, which is a pretty sad indictment of the rubbish I've been served up in my 20 years nearly of watching Town. But I think Hurst, we tried to sign a left back on deadline day. He was pretty open about that. And I think he just doesn't trust either of them, is the reality.
It doesn't need me to push back, Sam. It's quite evident you're talking shit about the left back, so I'll let everybody decide for themselves there. I think you're quite right, though, both of you, about defensively. I think Rodgers and Mart look absolute class above what we've had before, and I think Malarkey's been an absolute revelation. I think you start to see the teams we've played with the 4th lowest goals conceded, which sort of just cements that I think we do look good defensively, and I think as the season goes on, they'll start to play with each other a lot more. They'll start to get to know each other, and I'm sure those clean sheets and fewer goals will start to mount up. So, yes, you are right. I think there is obviously a problem at left back. I mean, I don't think there is, but Paul Hurst does, so it's a problem. And I'm not too sure about our depth in either left back or right back. So I think that's where we've gone. He's just turning around.
Well, they're my pants.
Is this something you got to sell?
They're my pants that I left at Bruce's last week. That I'm going to.
Not your pants, bloody hell, mate. Just be careful what you're saying.
I think we're all right. I'll be honest. If left back
it's not a souvenir I've taken. It's not a souvenir I've kept, Alex. Trust me.
If I need to ask you, Bruce. Actually, I think if left back is our problem, then we're not doing too bad. I don't think Amos and Glenn have started brilliantly, but I don't think they're the biggest weakness in the team. But Hurst has clearly identified it, and if there's an opportunity to bring someone in, which I assume was the guy on loan from Hull, then hell, why would you not I would much prefer us to buy a couple of people who can score goals. Yeah,
we've got to create chances. Don't everyone keep saying, "Oh, we need a striker." We don't create chances. It's not.
No, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
It's not a striker. You sound like one of them divs off bloody praise and grumble, Alex. That's a poor statement.
I'm not having this. What's this? This man who collects pants from people, unwittingly people. I think we need a big bugger up front. I think you need a plan B. But yeah, I agree with you as well. We need to create chances too.
Yeah, no. So I think we're going in the right direction. I think we need to keep picking up points, but I think we're going in the right direction. And I enjoyed watching the game yesterday.
Look, it's quite true. Yes, we need to score more goals. I just don't think the sort of negativity from some about needs to be more attacking, needs to score more goals actually rings true. I mean, we've scored the 9th highest, which isn't anything to write home about, but with the games we've played and the games we've played away, is a decent return in the first few games. We're a lot better on the ball, and as time comes, we'll start creating those chances. Gillingham, top of the league. They've won games 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. So they're obviously great defensively. Scored 2-0, no problem. Well, they must be if they've won 5 games 1-0.
All evidence to the contrary, my dear boy. We saw it.
Well, exactly, but that's because we were so good. So that's sort of reinforced.
Because we don't need any strikers and anyone to create chances.
Well, I think we're really, really close to being a really good side at this level, but we're just that ever so slight bit off it, which may well, as Mike says, come with time and players learning with one another in time, and players learning and gelling more. But we are still a little bit. We're closer than we were last year, but we are still a little bit off being a really.
Can I make a suggestion? I think we are when Martin Patterson came here on loan, Bruce. I got to look to you for this. Do you remember when he came over?
Yeah.
If we get that, then we're going up.
Yeah, because he was a sort of player that he could create. He's a bit like a Mick Baldwin, wasn't he? Of a sort of.
He transformed that.
He could create chances on his own, because we're not just looking for somebody that you say you want a big man though. Do we need that forward, that person that can burst into the box with a bit of skill?
I think
Harry's not the. Harry's he's a workhorse, and he's becoming a decent footballer, but he's not going to dribble into the box. Are we is that the sort of player? If we've got Isa on one side, but then I thought I've not really noticed a lot, but whether it's watching on TV yesterday or whatever, I noticed him a lot more, and I thought he was very tidy.
His touch for the goal was quality.
Yeah, he put it down well, didn't he? Because it sort of came from back over his shoulder, didn't it? Or sort of behind him.
No Salah.
Yeah, and he didn't try and do too much. He went to take his man on, didn't he? And he's like, "Oh, hang on a minute, I'm not getting back," and then just knocked it back. And obviously, it was a decent ball in that split the two defenders. And I mean, that was a James Hansen sort of type header, wasn't it? That you had to. He wasn't going to score a lot of different goals, James Hansen, but you put the ball on his head and you generally knew where it was going. And I thought he headed it, caught it perfectly, didn't he? And it was it literally bounced on the line, didn't it? He headed it down onto the line, and the keeper was never getting anywhere near it from 6 yards. I thought it was really. I thought we did a lot of things very well for most of yesterday, and I didn't feel unduly pressured, as we said earlier, when they put us under pressure, and I thought we'd seen that off, and I thought we were going to win the game, and I've not watched the goal back other than a couple of replays after 4 or 5 pints. I've not watched their goal back, but I mean, I think it was about the only place he could hit it where there's a crowded penalty area, wasn't it? And it was about the only place where he could have hit it, and the keeper would have seen it late, but it was in the side netting anyway. So I mean, it was a decent strike, and I think the only way they were going to score.
The point I was going to make a minute ago about Rose is that if you put 30, 35 of those balls in the box, he scores 20 goals a season easily. So it's not. I don't think it's a case of do you need a striker? I think we might have them. We've not seen Wilson and much of Pike, so there's 2 other options. We've also got Otis Khan, who's impressed at stages last year. So we've got 3 or 4 players that aren't in and around the team at the minute, either through injury or other reasons, that could be those players. So I think we need to let things settle down. We've got the new lad come in, Ainley. So we might have them here. I think a lot of what we've been talking about the last few weeks, and might be for the next few weeks, we just need to see how things settle down and how we start to gel and play. Because what we saw at Gillingham and what we saw last week was decent.
When Khan comes back, though, it's becoming a bit like when Scannell comes back. I know I'm being a bit harsh there, but
more than a bit, mate.
He's always injured. He was injured at the start of last season. He was injured around Christmas. He's either coming back from injury or injured.
Who's that?
When we actually got him, Khan, when we actually got him fit for a few weeks, just around Christmas and New Year last year, he was brilliant. But that's about the only time in his Town career he's been fit. He's been properly fit. So yeah, it'd be great to get Otis Khan fully fit and firing, but I just don't think it exists.
Maybe,
he was fit to go to Mauritius, wasn't he?
Well, I'd be fit to go to Mauritius.
I'm all right, Gaffer. I'm all right. I'm good. Give me that green jersey.
Yeah.
Richard Sutcliffe put something out, which I also saw, that said Jason Stockwood posted earlier. But which, by the way, great to see him. Great to see him in the away end yesterday. That was pretty nice to see. And you know, we send our thoughts and love to him after losing his mother. And he wrote a really nice piece in the Guardian, Sam. If you want to go look at it, I know you don't really venture over to that often.
I've read it. I like to read and surround myself with information that I disagree with. I don't believe in echo chamber,
like the Financial Times.
Could I just clarify something that I was looking up? Otis Khan made 39 appearances last season, so let's not just say that he was injured all season.
Did he?
Yeah,
bloody hell! He was.
The guy was injured twice, so he was out all season. He made 39 appearances. So let's just
Alex, admittedly, 15 of those were for Pakistan in July.
Yeah, I'll be entirely honest. Like that would suggest he was anonymous, because I can't remember. I'm neither here nor there on him.
It's not just me then that's got this perception of Khan never featuring then. But so the stats don't back up what I'm saying though. 40, I know he played a lot of games last. That's a lot of games even in a big season.
That makes it out like he was forgettable then.
Yeah, it does.
I remember him doing well at Cambridge. He did well at Cambridge in the FA Cup. Then he scored 2.
He did.
And yeah, I think he's got a bit to us. Like you say, we can't pin our hopes on him. He needs to. That would suggest that his consistency needs improving when he comes back. If he's to feature, if he's to get in this team. But Wilson looked good in pre-season, didn't he? Got a couple of goals. I know the opposition wasn't always great, but he got a couple of goals, and it'd be nice to see somebody else up there. We've got a bit of competition for places. We've just got to settle down, like Mike says, and see which of them end up being the favoured front three, because we see him at the moment with what we've got available, that he's named the same team 2 weeks running. He's got, that's clearly barring what this new lad Ainsley offers or what he thinks of him. He's got his favoured 11 or 12 at the minute, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he's worked out his best.
Hang on,
sorry.
I've got to put this out because it's been up for ages. Richard Sutcliffe said that Town has had the 3rd hardest start when looking at who we've played. So it shows you where their positions are on the average. And I only believe Sutton and I want to say Swindon have had a tougher start in terms of their league. Doncaster.
I think we're 4th, actually. I think we're I think we're 4th. The graph made it look like we're 3rd, though, because Doncaster were way bigger and didn't look like part of the table.
Oh, didn't they? Okay, fine.
Yeah, that's why I can see how that's manifested itself. But the side at the bottom, interestingly, who played the easiest opponents were Gillingham, Notts County, and Barrow.
Yeah, they've all played us.
Apart from Barrow.
I'm joking. That was just too easy. Sorry, low hanging.
Yeah. We can't be Town fans can't be self-deprecating. Town fans can't be self-deprecating. There's no hope. But now that laid bare what we were saying. Basically, that we expected a tough start on paper, and it's proved that way, hasn't it? In terms, but we keep taking. Apart from Notts County, we've not lost another game, so we're playing. We're playing better sides and we're taking points off them, which is what we said we need to do. We then need to cash in against some of the so-called less fancy teams, and we don't need another winter run if we're fancying ourselves at the top of the league this season.
I'm just looking. We've got the Wrexham game coming up, haven't we? I'm just looking who we've got after. I've not really looked beyond.
While Bruce is doing that, I want to just go back to the women's team because they played their first game of the season at home this week. Today, and they beat Mansfield by 1-0 from the penalty spot. By there you go, Eden Eden Pedersen scoring for Town. Mansfield then had a penalty in the very last minute of the game. Last minute, sorry. Look at this for agonisingly.
Oh, that's unlucky.
That's a hell of a penalty. That must have scooted along the line. That
Maisie at that post for the penalty yesterday.
did she really? Was it the
She
same?
at the left-hand post. No, it was just a fraction to the left. It just came straight out again. Just literally directly straight out. And it was, you're literally an inch or an inch and a half, aren't you, from it being a brilliant penalty in the bottom corner.
This is how you
we
take
better
them,
not,
really.
We better not dwell on that. We better not dwell on that because anyone listening can't see anything there, can they?
Well, it's nice to see though. So I mean,
it's a good win though. It's a good win. It's a good win.
Get rid of that gif.
And they are back in action next weekend against Chesterfield as well. We'll put some more details up. It's free to go to Winchcombe Academy. It's well worth spending your Sunday afternoon watching the champions take on the next league, which I think is the East Midlands Premier. So well worth it. Questions off Twitter, Mike. Have you got any that you? Sorry, go on, Bruce.
I was just going to say, so after Wrexham, I'll just give you our next few fixtures. We're at home to Crawley. That's 3 points with Mr. Depressive in it. Then we're away at Swindon, which I've never seen us lose there, but it's a tricky game that.
How on earth have you never seen us lose? How on earth have you never seen us lose at Swindon?
I saw us win the Cardwell game. Mitch Rose pen under Jolly.
The worst decision ever.
I saw. Was it a season or two later? Didn't Luke Hendry score? We drew 1-1.
Oh yeah, we did, didn't we? But because you listen. So my dad and Nancy bang on about how basically if you got Swindon and Hartlepool in the league with us, you might as well just put it down as no points and -6 goal difference from the word off.
Just all about the lunch.
And who's requested, because I'm staying with her before I go to Wrexham next week, who's renamed anti-lunch tickets, bed, breakfast, and travel.
You've got no shame.
No, I've got no.
Right, so let's get off the inane chit chat, as they would say. Let's have a quick look. So Bob, Bob? Always cheery. Bob wanted to know. We've lost the most points from winning positions in League Two. This is because it was up on Sky Sports on Saturday. Another 2 yesterday. What do the panel put this down to, and why aren't we addressing it? I would like a crack first. Yesterday, I think Hurst messed up, as we've already talked about, in terms of getting players on, but that wouldn't necessarily have cured it. Walsall was a mistake defensively between I think it was Rodgers who just couldn't get the ball away, if I remember rightly. And then we played Notts County, who have got a very good team, and pinned us back twice at home. So I'm not necessarily sure it's too early for me, in my opinion, to start drawing a long-term narrative off it. I'm happy to open it up to the rest of you.
We're not putting games to bed. But it's promising to me that we are actually taking the lead in these games at the moment. If it carries on through the season, then there's a problem. But at the moment, it's early days.
If we carry on playing like we are doing and taking the lead in games, we'll win a lot of games this season.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think context is always interesting. We can bandish stats and points around as much as we want, but I think if you look at Mansfield and Notts County, I think they're just better teams than us. I think the Walsall one's the only one I'm really angry about, and that was a defensive mistake. And I think yesterday, you were away at Bradford. It can happen. Now that's not excusing it. It's saying, the context of all of those do matter. I think if it continues into the season, then it's an issue. I don't think it is now. And it's interesting how the narrative can change. Last year, it was we weren't getting in winning positions. We weren't challenging teams. Now it's, we are, and then we're not finishing it off. So as I said earlier, every time we seem to hit a bump on the road or we get a complaint, whether it's our home form, our consistency, the football we play, we go on to the next one and the next one. And there's something else to moan about and something else to complain about. One of the things that I see a lot about recently, the last week or so, is that Paul Hurst is an inherently negative manager. I don't believe he is. We've seen negative football. We've seen negative teams come to Blundell Park, right? And if you look at the stats, I've got stats and I've looked them up, and I've not had to be racist to anybody. Paul Hurst has managed 563 professional football games. He has scored 804 goals, which is on average 1.42. Yeah, which between 2016 and 2021 is above average. Right, so if his teams are negative, somebody needs to tell his players because he scores more goals than most other teams. So it's an easy thing to say. I don't think it's true. Sometimes he can be cautious, and maybe we got caught out with that on Saturday. But I just think sometimes we just look for the next thing to moan about. Right, we've fixed that. What's the next thing we can have a dig about? What's the next thing we can do? It's not an issue at the minute. If it is in January, then obviously it's an issue. But
What's
7
an
games
issue?
in,
What's an issue?
the losing points from
Okay.
from winning positions. You know, we've played Wimbledon, Notts County, Mansfield, Salford, Walsall, Gillingham, and Bradford. We've lost 1 game.
He's got the fixture list now.
That is a great start. Yes, there's things we need to improve on, but come on, for Christ's sake, we just
Apart from the
seem
Notts
to
County
look for
game,
things.
apart from the Notts County game, all those other games we've only scored 1 goal, and I go back to what I said. That it's just not putting games to bed when we're on top. But like I say, I agree with you, Mike. I don't think at the moment. I think it's too early for it to be an issue.
Yeah, that's fine. That's good.
Can I go
Sam,
through these
what were you
fixtures,
gonna say?
Alex? Just before... Oh, sorry, go on, Sam.
Oh my, yeah, no, go on then. Go on. What's the fixtures?
Right, Sam. You're never excitable. So tell me how many points we're getting from these games, okay? Wrexham away.
None.
Crawley at home.
3.
Swindon away.
None.
Barrow at home.
None.
That's a Tuesday night. None. Tranmere away. They're shit, aren't they, Tranmere?
Tranmere are another one that we never win at, aren't they?
Oh, God, bloody hell.
Just got a new manager as well.
Easier games.
Just got a new manager.
Well, they've got no manager.
Oh yeah, it's Nigel
Right.
Adkins.
He's there in temporary capacity. He's the director of football. Tranmere, I don't know. Flip a coin. You'd instinctively think we should.
3.
Oh, I think we'll win that.
Stockport away.
Is anyone writing these down? So we can go back to
No,
at the end of October.
I'm just rattling. I'm rattling through these. Just there's a couple more to the end of October. That'll be about another 8 games.
We'll lose at Stockport because we're due a defeat there.
We're going to get less points from the easy games than we are from these. Anyway, Colchester at home.
And that's the Grimsby way.
Colchester at home. Donny away.
We'll beat both of those.
It gets a bit easier, but it's not loads easier, is it?
No, October's on paper an easier month.
Okay.
Tranmere.
Thank you for that, Sam.
Thank you.
I'll sit quietly now.
No, I thought that was good. Joanna Jackson Gray says we win the next 5. That's the positivity. Dave Dixon has outstatted Mike here. Last season we scored 1 or 0 in 75% of our games. So it stands with Bruce's argument: make hay while the sun doth shine.
I don't think we're going to score enough goals to go on a ludicrous sort of Manchester City style winning run. But I do think
5 games.
Yeah.
Whoa! Hold your horses, young buck. 5 games that don't happen around these parts.
I wonder when we last won 5. Must have done the start of the conference season. But traditionally, her sides and the conference season kind of buck this trend. Is that they start quite slowly, have a good run around the autumn, have a crap run around Christmas, another good run in spring, and then tail off towards the end of the season when we're certain of the playoffs. That is the Hurst sort of season run, isn't? What would you say? Or do people disagree with me on that one?
We won 5 in 2021, 2022 in a row. We beat Dover, Altrincham, Woking, and Bromsgrove and Yeovil. 5 in a row.
Way.
Yeah. Any others?
I just don't buy. I know you've repeated it. I just don't buy that we're in the position where we're not going to score goals this season. I honestly will hang my hat on. We're going to score a lot more goals than we did last season. I think the start of the season, you have to look at the quality of the teams we've played. We've played first, second, and third to start with.
Are they first, second, and third there because we put them there?
Well, no, because we beat one of them, we lost to one of them, and we drew to one of them. So
let's have a look. How many goals did we score last season? Sorry, this is all a bit. 24 at home and 25 away. So we scored 49 goals.
I'll agree with Mike. Then we'll score more goals than that this season. I will say that with some degree of certainty.
We need to if we want to do well, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. You say if we don't, then I think that it's legitimate. You can ask questions then.
And I think the fact last season, I think we didn't score goals because we weren't good enough in possession with the football. We've said many times this year we're better in possession of football. If you do that, you have more possession, you're going to create more chances. Obviously, we need to be better. We need to create more chances. But I think we've got all the fundamentals there to do it. So as we progress, you've just got to hopefully that these teams all start to gel a bit better. But those we were worried about that run of games before the season started. We were worried about it because we thought we're going to lose 3 or 4 on the bounce, and everyone's going to be calling, for Hurst out, or it's going to be pandemonium, and we've lost one of them.
Just some of the Hurst out stuff. A lot of it goes back, I think, a long time. I still think a lot of people have never quite got over the fact that he cupped his ear to them. I think some people are still pissed off that they were wrong in the winter of 2021-22 when they wanted him sacked. And I think it is maybe we give too much. Maybe Mike and I are guilty of giving too much energy to it in reverse, because it is a very noisy. It's a small minority that's just very, very noisy. And frankly, I've got better things to do with our time than kind of argue with people.
No, it's all right. I think I'm a bit of a devil's advocate when it comes to Hurst in terms of I like him, and I think he's the hardest working manager we've had for a long time. I think there are, weaknesses to his game, which is why he's not managing at a higher level. And I think we all know what they are. But I also one thing I found interesting, the tweet I sent out yesterday, I still agree. I still think Hurst takes the majority of the blame for yesterday, as I've said already. But I'll tell you something, the second you're critical, the first response is to go, well, you're not a football expert. But when we're lavishing praise on our players and telling them how well they're doing and what we're getting right and what we're getting wrong, that goes out the window. We're just, we're fans then. We're not non-football experts then. It's amazing how that quickly changes. You're only not a football expert when you're criticizing. When you're praising a player, it doesn't matter if you're not a football expert. It doesn't matter what you can't see. You're saying the nice things, so it's fine, which is lovely in a way, but hypocritical in others. That's such a good point. Everyone was quiet. Brilliant. That'll do, because we're waffling. Wrexham next. Look forward to a 3 points from them. Nice and easy. No one defends their back post, and we win 11-10, which seems to be anything from anyone else before we go. Mike? Good. Bruce?
No, thanks, mate.
All good, mate. Thank you.
Sam, anything you want to plug?
See you all at Wrexham.
Not a chance. Right. See you all in a bit, and have a good week. See you later.
Open wide for some soccer!
And now the shipping forecast issued by the Met Office on behalf of the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency at 1130. Go! 1130.
I don't think I've ever wanted to be in a stand more than my life around there. They're going crazy. Hey, they got a penalty here. They've been fish flying about there. There's no tomorrow.
What a magnificent piece of football! A really, really good goal.